Homer led the league in tackles with 85. The deep ball for Darius Prince, and Philadelphia's on the board first.
On the draw, this is Grayson Alleen. And Alleen weaving his way all the way down to the 22.
10-yard line, 5. Mayfield, Dancy, all around. Throw it as far as he can throw it. Jump ball coming. Crazy stuff. Not this time.
And you want to be a wide receiver, you're going to have to take a little bit of a hit like that as Brown got him in that shoulder, but watch. Those are teeth.
Do we have a dentist on staff here?
All right, we're back for another great episode of Around the Indoor Football World. And in this episode, we've got special guests. We've got a lot of news. It's a great way to kind of close out the indoor football season. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and go around the panel real quick and introduce everybody who's here today, as well as our special guest, which is up there in the top right corner. Give me just a moment. I'll get that situated a little bit better. But I'm, of course, Sam Shady, kind of launched the Shady Sports Network about 4 years ago. If you're watching, chances are you probably already knew that. So I really appreciate you guys' support, and we'll move on. And we got CJ Kane here on my right. CJ, why don't you kind of introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so just a guy, plays a little football, coaches college football, and giving a different perspective on here. Appreciate you having me.
It's always a pleasure to have you on, man. You've got a unique perspective, to say the least. Let me get that logo right out of your face there. And it's always nice to have your perspective on, because you are not one to pull punches, but you say it politely. So it's always nice to have you on and give your 2 cents as well. Now below me, we got Julian Walker. Julian, you're a veteran wide receiver of many leagues. I know you've kind of got your goals and aspirations for 2025, but I wanted to say I appreciate you joining us, and why don't you kind of give a quick introduction to you as well?
Yeah, Julian Walker from Minneapolis, Indiana. Good on, and thanks for having me, man. Should be a really good show, so really good.
Absolutely. Always love to have you on, man. I think this is the second or third time, and I'm sure it won't be the last. Hopefully we'll interview you right after you sign with Fisher's Freight later on this offseason. And then right there at the bottom, we got TJ Bartholomew, who has quickly become my most consistent co-host on this show, which I don't think either of us quite saw coming to begin with. But TJ, how you doing this morning, man?
Good. Glad to be on, and happy to be talking football.
Absolutely. So we've got a lot of NAL experience on this panel for a reason, because we're kicking the show off by interviewing new offensive coordinator for the Wheeling Milers, Sean Leota. So, Coach Leota, we appreciate you joining us today. And I guess I'll just go ahead and jump us off. I mean, you and I have kind of talked off camera for a couple years now, basically since your time in the FCF. And I was curious, what led you back to the NAL and specifically with Wheeling?
Oh, yeah. First of all, Sam, I really appreciate what you guys do with the show. And the more people can do, obviously, to promote and grow the great game of indoor football. I'm an indoor football lifer, if you will. I've been involved in the game since 2006. I've been in just about every league you could probably imagine. So as far as what got me back, to be honest, I had last coached on the field in a league in 2015 with the Erie Explosion, when that team went out of business, ceased operations, whatever you want to call it, after a very successful run that we had. I had a great opportunity to get involved with fan-controlled football and its many iterations, and really helped kind of build that from a management perspective, not so much as a coach. I was the director of coaching. I hired I hired the coaches in the league. Before that, we were actually managing 2 teams in the indoor football league, the Colorado team and the Salt Lake team. That was kind of the testing point for fan control football. And then it kind of just grew from there. And obviously we had two very successful seasons. In the second season, I ended up being the head coach of the entire league. And that was a fun experience, obviously. And great people in the FCF. Honestly, I wish they would have kept that thing going in the way that it was going, but they're into some different things now, and may potentially get back into football at some point there. But they're basically they're into cricket and NASCAR and baseball, and there's just so many sports that the fan controlled is now involved with. But really football was the jumping off point for it. So, in those regards, I've never been out of it, So, during that time, myself and a partner of mine ran a lot of camps across the country and, prospect evaluations. I've worked with, during that time, coaches all across leagues. I got friends in every league you could imagine. Every year I would turn down a bunch of jobs. Guys would contact me. Do you want to come here? Would you talk to us about the head coaching job? Will you talk to, about an offensive coordinator job? And to be honest with you, I live here in Pittsburgh. I'm the head football coach at Burrell High School. This is my 7th year here. My daughter goes to school here. So I'm pretty comfortable, with where I'm at, in my career. So I never really, was going after a lot of these different, do I want to go live in New Mexico for 6 months? You know what I mean? No offense to New Mexico, but probably not. You know what I mean? So it's little things like that, where this ended up being Coach Rez got a hold of me. And I hadn't talked to Coach Rez since he and I probably faced off with each other when he was the head coach of the Harrisburg team, and we played him when I was in Erie. So, I knew Coach Rez. I know a lot of people that know him, and he reached out and said, "Hey, I want somebody to come in and take over the offense. Somebody like yourself. Would you be willing?" And we talked and hashed it out pretty quick. And for me, Wheeling, I think, is a great indoor city. I think Coach Rez is really building something special down there with the Miners. They've had great attendance. I know they have good corporate support. I know that's growing each and every day. So I think that's something where it was just a really attractive offer for me, because I can still continue to do what I do here every day and go on and take that opportunity there. In what I think is the NAL looks very strong to me, so we'll see. I'm excited about the opportunity. I'm excited about, being a part of Coach Rez's organization, and they've got great ownership there too. And that's the key. You got to have good ownership. I wouldn't take the job if there wasn't good ownership. So I'm really, really impressed with their organization. So I'm excited to get after it there in Wheeling.
Absolutely. CJ, you can go ahead and just hop right in, buddy. And then we'll work our way right down the side panel here. So TJ, if you want to go next, and then Julian after that.
So, Coach, I've been following you since I lived in PA during COVID, and read your book and everything, and wanted to see how different is it as a coordinator preparing for an outdoor game versus preparing for an indoor game.
Oh man, it's totally different. So indoor football it is a really unique animal, and it's what I love about the NAL rules is I have a background in both rules. I have a background in the AFL game. We played that style of play. We were really good at it. In the indoor game, I prefer the NAL rules with kind of the hybrid, the kind of the IFL, if you want to call it, the indoor rule set, because I think it's closer to real football. So I think in a lot of regards, game planning in the NAL is more conducive to what you would do outdoors, just because you can run the football. You have a legitimate running game. You have to be able to do that, I think, to be successful. I think teams that try to consistently throw the football with the indoor rules tend to not do as well. I think even if you look at like when the AFL teams came into the IFL, like Kevin Guy and those guys, Kevin Guy, obviously one of the best coaches of all time in indoor and arena football. I think there was a transition period for Kevin when he came in and saw like, hey, look, we got to run the ball. We got to do these kind of things. We got to have this kind of quarterback. I know my friend Jason Gibson went through that this year in Jacksonville a little bit when he had some growing pains at the beginning of the season because he was used to the arena style of play, and it's a different game. You need different kinds of players. It's just a different style. It's really two different styles, but and I love them both. It's not a knock on either. But if you told me which do I prefer, I would prefer the indoor style, the NAL style, the IFL style for sure. Just because I think it's truer to football. I think you can utilize players such as running backs and H backs and things like that that you really can't use. A lot of those guys don't have a spot, in the arena game, the AFL game. But I hope that answered your question. So there are, and for me, it's always we've had pretty good success. I mean, if you look up our numbers, I mean, I'm not trying to, brag or anything like that, but I've had MVP quarterbacks, all different guys, all through the years, all different leagues, all different rule sets. It's just all how you teach it. You got to have really good players. I've always been blessed that I've always been able to go out and get really good players, and really good players make you win in indoor football and arena football. If you get some good ones and you find some good ones and you find diamond in the rough type guys, like we had a lot of success over the years with finding maybe D3 guys that were overlooked. You find guys who are you just like I'm gonna give you an example. Like, so FCF, you want to bring up FCF? I mean, Quantez Stiggers. Quantez Stiggers came to our workout. He was working at a car dealership, in town, and had played a semester of football at Lane College, and he's drafted in the NFL this year. And really, if it would not have been for a league like the FCF to be able to jumpstart him and give him an opportunity to get picked up in the CFL and go excel in the CFL, those things wouldn't happen. But I always had success taking guys that were maybe on the scrap heap that, people didn't know a lot about, or maybe they had gotten themselves into trouble when they were young and dumb in college and did something that ended up, they needed a second chance. And I've always been a guy, that was about giving guys second chances, if they could play football, and as long as they obviously followed our guidelines. And we had great success. And hey, guess what? There are a bunch you got to ship out. There are some that you bring them in and you give them a chance, and it don't work out, and they send them on their way. And it happens. It's part of the game. It's you win some, you lose some. They say, right? So you got to know when to cut bait if you got a guy that just isn't following the program. But obviously, in terms of scoring points, like we're going to score. We're gonna, that's what I'm here to do. So I mean, I don't have any doubt. We will. You're not going to stop us in the NAL. We're going to go up and down. We'll have guys. We'll play a different style, and we'll play a little different style than some of these teams play. I mean, believe me, and I'm not being critical of me. There's great coaches all throughout the NAL. Our style's a little different. It will be a little different. You'll see tempo. You don't see a ton of tempo in the indoor leagues and NAL, and you'll see different tempo changes. You'll see different things, maybe that you just don't see because people say, well, we don't do that. We've never done that or whatever. I've never been a guy that says that. I've never been a guy that says, well, it's just not how we do it. We do it like this. Well, there might be a better way to do it. Like I'm constantly looking for a better way to do it. And I've got notebooks filled with notes. So if you think like I may not have been on the field coaching in one of these leagues in the last couple of years, but I promise you, I've been consulting with dozens of teams across different leagues. I watch games every week in every league. My wife thinks I'm nuts. She's like, what are you doing putting the YouTube app on? Watch, what is this? Like, so sometimes I have to wait till her and my daughter would go to sleep. And I got on a former quarterback of mine, actually was the head coach in San Diego in the IFL. Taylor Jenniser did a great job this year. So I'd always watch their games because they were on like later. I'm on the East Coast. I'm in Pennsylvania. So I could always everybody's gone out of the room, so I could put that on the big screen and watch those games. So I'd text him like, "What are you doing there? Don't do that." The one I teased him about is when he could have took a knee against Vegas and he ran a play and Vegas almost beat him on a 2-point conversion, things like that, right? So the reason I will watch those is I want to keep my mind sharp and I want to see the trends. I want to see what other people are doing, right? I want to see what the Omaha Beef are doing on offense. They're putting points up, and I want to see what San Diego's doing, and I want to see what the Arizona Rattlers are doing. And so I'm sitting there and I jot notes and things I like. Oh, I like this. This could add into this package. So if you want to do this, I think you got to be a student of the game. And that's what helped me get into this game, right? Because like I got in as a head coach in 2006 and I had never played arena football or indoor football. And I had a guy give me an opportunity and I had to earn my way there. I had to make sure that I was prepared. So I went out, visited people, talked to same thing you do with anything. You try to get good at it and you learn from mistakes and you develop your system, develop your offense and you kind of go from there. But again, if you just think you're going to sit there, if I think I'm going to look, they're dusting me off and bringing me out there. If I think I'm going to dust off my old playbook and rip the cover off and put Wheeling Miners on the front of it, and I think that we're going to be successful, I'm mistaken. I gotta look at what is our personnel. I gotta look at what do I want to add. What are the new trends? What do I think can put us in a position to be successful? And we kind of go from there. But to answer your question, I think there's two parts. I think guys fail in indoor football or arena football for two reasons. I think number one, they don't really understand the game and they don't try to understand the game. So like I faced a lot of these coaches, and you go in and it's like, hey, so and so just hired a guy, he's in the NFL Hall of Fame, or he's in the he played 8 years in the NFL. And for every guy, that's like Marvin Jones has done a great job. Now, Marvin Jones is one of the best football players in college football history, right? But Marvin Jones learned the game, right? He spent time to learn the indoor game. Like I remember Marvin was up with the Colorado team. Marvin is a student of the game. Like he spent time learning it, okay? There are guys who come in and they think just because they played somewhere or whatever that they're, and teams will hire them as head coaches. They'll hire them. They'll say because they want the name recognition and they want to put that guy out there. But what happens is they don't know how to manage players. They don't understand the game, and it ends up being a colossal failure. I've seen that in so many markets. That's why if I was putting a team together and I was hiring coaches, I would put a precedence on hiring experienced coaches. Fisher's Freight, great hire. Dixie Wooten, great hire. Like that's a smart, you understand? That's a smart move. Like they went out and got a guy who has won, who's a proven winner, who has won in that area of the country. That is a very important thing, I think, that in indoor football, like I'm a East Coast guy, right? Okay, Midwest, East Coast kind of guy. If you put me out in California, well, I don't have all the connections out in California with all the D3s and the D2s, but here I got all the connections with these people. Personally, I know people up and down the coast. So for me, it just, I think it's you got to have a guy that's regional. You got to have a guy that knows the game. I think all those are important, and I'm not saying you can't be successful outside of that, but I do really think if you're building a franchise, those are important things you're looking for, in a coach. And I went off probably a little bit off the rails of your question there, but just wanted to kind of, because I see a lot of things in indoor football that frustrate me, and I'll see it, and you just see it. I'll see it come across because I follow it all. It'll come across, and I'll be like, man, they're going to be set up to fail. I feel bad. I feel bad because you just see it, and you're like, this isn't going to be a good fit, and I know this isn't going to be a good fit, and it ends up being a bad deal.
Completely fair. TJ, if you want to go ahead and go on with your question.
I used to coach for a few years as well, not nearly as long and as big of a resume as you have, but I always wonder when I get to talk to other coaches, what is your like coaching style, and how have you been able to translate it into so much success over your career, multiple time champion, coach of the year, things like that?
Sure. I think it's all, first of all, it's players. It all comes down to players. And I was blessed throughout my career. I had great ownership. That's why the first thing when Coach Rez called me, I'm going to be honest with you, and I told him the same thing. I vetted his ownership. I called some people and they said, no, they're legit. They're fine, because I just want to make sure that's, because you see so much of that, at this level that gives you a problem. But like I said, the organization is really solid there. So I'm excited. The idea of what kind of allows success, I think you have to make your system, if you're talking offensively, it has to be quarterback friendly. So it's got to be able to, adapt to multiple quarterbacks, because you might not finish the season with the same quarterback that you start with. So you got to put the situation where your quarterback's able to make great decisions. You're able to get him coached up. You're able to get the ball out of his hand. That's the other thing. This isn't a game you take losses. This isn't a game you take penalties. The ball has to come out. If it's pass game, ball's got to come out. If it's run game, we got to get in the right decision. We got to get in the right read. We got to, have all of that. We got to be downhill. I think all of those things, are very important. And the quarterback has to understand the game, because it's a different game. Safety in the middle of the field means nothing in indoor football. It's that field is 28 and a third yards wide. So you could go from hash to wall pretty easily, as opposed to being out there in the outdoor field, where you say, "Oh, that guy's on the hash, so he can't get over and make that play outside the numbers." Here, he can easily make that play. So it's just really, teaching the quarterbacks and being able to, utilize, a methodology where your offense seems complex to, seems very complicated to the defense, but to us, it's very easy. Um, we've got a lot of concepts, I think, that, are able to relate over, various, defensive structures. Like, we don't really care what the defense does. I'll be honest. Like there's only so many things they can do. We break that down for our quarterbacks, and it's all from there. We're identifying certain players on defense. And that's probably another fallacy of football. People think, oh, he's out there and they got to read the defense. You hear that all the time. You got to read the coverage or read the defense. Well, most football, and listen, I've coached at a high level. I've been around high level guys. Outside of maybe the National Football League, most offenses are keying on certain defenders. That's who they're truly reading, or who the play is going to be dictated off of. And that's really no difference in indoor football. I mean, the AFL game is a touchdown check down game, right? So the AFL, everything is based off of putting your guys on the walls, getting your best guy in high motion, and putting them on some sort of two-way go or something in the middle a lot of times, and you're literally going touchdown check down based off what the corner drop, what happens there to try to take away that two-way go, that poco route. Indoor is a little different, right? Because, man, they could drop all kind of cats into coverage. That's what I like about it. It's more truly like outdoor football. So again, we can't be reading the whole thing, because we got to get the ball out of our hand quick. We got to make a decision if it's the passing game. And again, if it's the run game, we're attacking the front. We know what the front is. That's the easy thing about, NAL rules. Like, we know the front. We're not getting disguises or anything front wise. They're restricted by the rules of how they can line up. So it's how do we deploy our guys, and how do we force them or stretch them in areas that they don't want to be stretched, whether it's the run game or the pass game, because the jet motions, the different motions can influence a defense. And that's how, when you see a guy at this level that really knows what he's doing, you're going to see him use different motion styles. You're going to see different things done. And the whole reason it's done is it's to see how does that stress what they're trying to do on their second and third levels, on the back end, because that's where you get a lot of these gashes, in the run game, and holes to throw the football in the pass game as well.
Absolutely. Julian, all you, man.
Coach, congrats on your offer and everything as well. Excuse my voice, just getting over a little sickness there.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you.
But yeah, man, sitting out, watching the game is very different. Seeing it from a different perspective. What things have you saw that you can kind of implement that you see that didn't work that you can implement to the game for next year?
Sure. I mean, I think you're seeing a lot of different motion stuff. I think you see teams that do a really great job, and we were always on the I don't want to say the cutting edge, but we always ran the jet stuff. We call it pop out. That kind of stuff. We always were doing that. We were doing that probably back before a lot of the other indoor teams were kind of doing it. So it was always a big part of what we did. But I think you're seeing more of just varied motions. I think you're seeing, some guys try to do a little. The thing that annoys me, I'll be honest with you, that I don't love. I watch some IFL games, and I know coaches are running particular motions to try to get an illegal defense call, and then they go to the iPad and they sit there and look at the iPad and they say it's illegal defense. That's the one thing I will say this. I am not a fan of that. I am not a fan of a team gets stopped on offense. They throw a challenge flag, they get an iPad out, and they say that a guy was shaded, 6 inches outside of the guard. You know what I mean? And they get a for pick up 5 yards and they get a first down if it's 4th and 4 or something. I am not. As a fan, I think that just looks corny, right? Like, so I think if you're sitting in the stands and you're watching that, I think that's always been the knock on indoor and arena football. Really, the quirky rules that the general fans don't understand. And I truly think if we want to make this game more of a mainstream game, those little things we have to just, hey, the ref made a call. Let's live with it, right? Now if it's something like, is the field goal good? Is it a fumble? Did he break the plane of the goal line? The problem with that is, though, you see so much when I watch these broadcasts, they don't have a fixed camera on that goal line. So that is very hard, short of it being on the wall where the line is taped up for the goal line. It's really hard to see, did that ball break the plane of the goal line? I mean, without having a camera fixed on that goal line, that's very difficult. So I love the replay. I think it's cool that there's replay in these leagues and everything, but I think when we start, I mean, you just see it all the time. I hate to say it, but you see it. A team gets stopped. They're calling out. They're bringing the iPad over. They're messing with the iPad. They're handing the iPad. When you look at it and you think about it, how does that look to the fans, right? It probably looks kind of crazy. Like, if you don't know anything about this game, like, what are they looking at? Where they got a first down now? Like, what do you mean illegal defense? He was too wide. It's just, I think it's a great game. I do think what I've always said too is people who don't like indoor football or don't like arena football, they've probably never been to a game, because when we would get people to actually come to a game, the experience of being there, the experience of just being so close to the action, the interaction with the players. I know Coach Rez and Wheeling do a great job, their staff, with getting the community involved there, getting the fan base, which is really passionate, really energetic, to interact with the players. And it's going to be a matter of time there before I'm excited, because they're going to sell that building out. When that building sells out, that's going to be a heck of a deal there in Wheeling, because like I said, those fans there are passionate, about their football, and they want winning football though. So that's what we got to bring to them. We got to make sure that we continue the winning, and we're going to put a lot of points up.
Absolutely. Coach, thank you so much for your time this morning. I'm going to leave you with one last question, and then we'll get you out of here for the morning. I would love to have you back on for a full-length interview just about your career sometime.
Anytime. Anytime.
My final question for you is, obviously you're new to or not new to the NAL, but you're returning to the NAL for 2025. You look over and you've got, two different champions in the league, with Columbus that, has basically run every league that they've been in. And then also Omaha, same situation, champions 2 years in a row, haven't lost a game.
Sure.
look at those teams in particular and kind of circle the matchup that's coming up with them, or is that a situation where it doesn't matter which team you're playing on a week to week basis?
Now, I'll be honest, I'm excited to play some of these cities. I've been to, if I drew up a map and drew you all the weird places I've ever been, like where we've traveled or, you know, and some of them give you weird, you know, I'll never forget my first game ever was in Tupelo, Mississippi, of all places. So we went all the way down to Tupelo on a bus. And our bus actually broke down when we were down there. So we had to find out to get another bus. So there's just different stories like that, right? So there are cities that I've never been to. I've never been to Omaha beef. I'd love to go, you know, the slaughterhouse, they call it, right? I'd love to go play in the slaughterhouse. And, you know, the best thing about playing on the road in these cities, Columbus is a great city. Columbus passionate. I've coached there many a times, but there's nothing better than when you go to those kind of places and when you're on the road, you have no fans. You might have, if the players have a couple girlfriends maybe in the area or something, maybe they come, they give them tickets, you know. You might get cut, but I mean, people aren't, most of your fans are not traveling to these far, you know, fans from Erie, PA, were as passionate as they come. They were not coming to Columbus, Georgia to watch us play in a football game, right? So when you're in Columbus, Georgia, and you're playing, the place is rocking. When you score, you can hear a pin drop. To me, there is nothing that is the greatest feeling in the world about indoor football. You know, when that crowd is that loud, and literally when I'm telling you, it's like all the air comes out of it. You can literally hear a pin drop, and all you hear is your guys enjoying themselves and having a good time. And to me, I love going on the road for that reason, because it is that is a special situation. And there's places I've been before that are in the league. Harrisburg is one, Columbus is one. You know, Harrisburg, you know, Coach Bernie is up there. Coach Bernie's a great man, one of the best coaches that's ever done this, you know, at this level as well. We've had many battles through the years, so I got a lot of respect for them, a lot of respect for their organization. But I'll be honest, I'm not planning to lose to any of them. So they're going to have to score a lot of points to keep up. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun for the fans. That's what it's about. And we've always had the mentality. I've always had the mentality that you go on the road. You got to win all your home games. You know, so I think this is the other thing. Just one other secret sauce for coaches out there. You win your home games. Okay, you got to win all your home games, because the majority of your fan base, that a lot of them don't know what you do on the road. They don't pay attention. You might get the person that just randomly comes for a game or two or whatever. They hear about it. They think you're undefeated because you won all your home games. You know, I think my entire career in Erie, we only lost about 2 home games ever. You know, that was a rarity. Like we took care of business at home, and then when you go on the road, you want to hover a little bit around over 500. You know, if you can do that, if you can go ahead and win your home games, and then you go and you win, you know, 70% of your road games, you're a championship level team. It's hard to win on the road in these leagues. It's hard to go into that slaughterhouse up there in Omaha and win. It's hard. Like, we're looking forward to the challenge. I hope we get to do it. I'd love to go up there. I want to experience that. Like I said, it's one of the places I haven't got to go. Would love to go up there. And then, you know, I'm excited about these new markets coming in. I don't know what that werewolf team is, but that looks pretty cool. You know, what is that team? How do you say that name? It looks like a big werewolf. What is it?
Rougarou, I believe, or Rougarou.
Rougarou. Okay. Then they've got a great coach down there, Pat Pimmel. I saw they signed him, so they're going to be a good team. So maybe we could go play the Rougarou too. That'd be cool. You know, werewolf. I'll get a werewolf T-shirt maybe while I'm down there.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Coach. Like I said, would love to have you back on. Obviously, we need a lot more time to speak with you, because there's so many different
I can
stories.
say a
and
lot.
things.
But I just want to say this too. I'm excited about the NAL. I think Ricky Burtz and the owners, you know, the guys who are really the stalwarts of that league, are doing a phenomenal job. You know, I've seen the good, bad, the ugly of this sport over decades. Everything I'm seeing, everything I'm hearing points towards the NAL is going to put a phenomenal product on the field this year for the fans, and that's what it's all about. And I'm excited to be a part of it.
Completely agree, and looking forward to 2025. Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time once again. Have a great rest of your day, and would look forward to speaking to you in the future.
Thanks, gentlemen.
We will see you soon.
Take care.
You too. All right, so we're going to go ahead and play a quick commercial, and then we will get right back with Dawson Evitz of the Arizona Rattlers. If I can find the commercial, give me just a second.
Right now, Donnie Lion.
Winter is coming.
And he can make something magical happen here. And there goes the ball. It's going. It's going. You're a fan.
Battles will be won.
Hold on now.
At the 30, and he...
Oh!
Who's going to take victory?
He's making it!
And that's why championship points matter.
It's time for war.
In 2017, you, yes you, could have been the general manager of an indoor football team. I was. So was someone down the road, or in a different town, or a different state, or even a different country. The access to an app and play calling abilities and voting abilities, you were in charge of a very important team with lessons learned along the way. This is the history of the Salt Lake Screaming Eagles. They were gone, but not forgotten. Come join me as we take a look at a very mysterious team.
All right, we are back, and let me go ahead and switch this. Oh, my Lord. Is that an Eagles badge back there?
Yeah.
Dawson, thank you for joining us this morning.
I'm good. How are you? Thank you.
Doing well. Are you an Eagles fan?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Pennsylvania, so I'm an Eagles fan.
All right. Well, that's at least one of two here. I'm a huge Eagles fan, so once again, thank you for joining us. Anybody who's not aware, Dawson is the kicker for the Arizona Rattlers, who just won the IFL championship. So this was your rookie season, correct?
Yep, rookie season.
So obviously, it's safe to say you had a pretty good experience in the IFL for your first season. Would you recommend the league to new players that are coming out of college looking for an opportunity to continue their careers?
Yeah, absolutely. When I had just graduated college in December, and I was just kind of looking for an opportunity, and this had came up. So I didn't really know anything about it. And then once I got there, I kind of realized how high the level of playing actually is, and the opportunity that can come with it. So I definitely recommend it to anybody looking to continue their football career after college.
Absolutely. TJ, you're our resident special teams expert. Why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Yeah. How do you feel looking back at the championship game, because you just had a lights out performance, and to kind of piggyback off that, I always ask this from kickers, primarily when I coach them, but what is your pregame routine, and how do you feel it translated to that great performance in the championship game?
Yeah, most games I'm just honestly I'm just following what the paper says when it's posted by the coach. I'm not too superstitious. I don't like to do too many different things. I feel like for me, if I'm worried about making sure to do something every single game, then I'm just getting in my head too much. I just like to kind of go out there, stretch, do what I have to do what I usually do, and just try to stay out of my head. That's I would say 90% of kicking is mental. So I just go out there, warm up, do what I got to do, and then through the season, it's translated really well for me. Just doing those things.
That makes sense. Julian, all you, buddy.
Being a kicker, I know it's kind of, obviously, you want to put pressure on yourself as well. Do you put pressure to make the tackle if need be? Or do you do kickoffs as well too? Or because I've been on a lot of teams where the coaches made it a thing that the kickers have to be able to tackle as well.
Yeah, in high school I had a few tackles, and then this year I had a few tackles as well. to be honest, I don't really know how to tackle, to be honest. But yeah, but if someone is breaking through, like, I'm always gonna try to do my best. In the indoor league, it was a little easier having the wall there. But yeah, I mean, my always thought is, I'm gonna try to stop him any way that I can. And then yeah, this past championship game, I actually did use the wall to push the return out of bounds. So
there you go. Cody, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I've got a fun question. Let's take it back to just last year. You guys made the semifinals of the Division II National Championship. What was it like going up against Colorado School of Mines? And take me through kind of the D2 experience for kind of that PSAC conference.
yeah, the PSAC is a really good conference in the Division II level. We actually started our season off I think we were 1-3. We lost the first 2 games. I know everyone wasn't, thinking the season was going to go how it ended up going. We got on our first flight ever to go to a football game with Kutztown, and we flew out to Colorado, and I think they went to the final 4 maybe like 5 years in a row, and then or 4, and they went to the national championship the last 2. So yeah, I mean they were a really good team, but I think we ended up playing a good game. We did fall short, but the experience in that was second to none. Just being able to play in the Final Four at the Division II level, it was great, and it was a great experience for everybody. So I'm really happy that happened, and it was a good time.
See, yeah, there we go.
So Dawson, being a kicker, your process is different. Trying to find a team to continue your career on. So can you talk a little bit about how you ended up going from PA all the way out to Arizona? Because I know this been around the game for a little bit. Kicker sometimes a position that some coaches say, oh, we'll just pick them up at a tryout, or we'll sign a local guy, something like that. So can you just kind of go through that process of how you went from coast to coast, and how that all went?
Yeah, so after I graduated, I realized I still wanted to keep kicking. So when I was still in college, I had got invited to the FCS Bowl, but since we were in the Final Four of the Division II playoffs, I couldn't attend that to kick in front of some of the scouts. So in January, I was actually in Arizona. I was at a Gary Zahner combine. I had done that, and then I actually went to, I forget the name of it, but it was in Indiana. It was like a small school combine. And while I was there, I was talking to my agent, and he was trying to talk to some people, and then he had messaged me and said that if I wanted it, there's an opportunity for me to play in, I don't know the league name, but it was in Mexico, maybe the LFA. But then I wasn't too keen on playing in Mexico. I didn't really want to. I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to do right away, is leave the country. And then the next day, he had texted me again and said the Arizona Rattlers of the IFL were looking for a kicker. And I had no idea who they were. I didn't know what the IFL was or anything about it. I knew of the AFL from just years ago, like being born in Pennsylvania. Like I've heard of the Philly Soul and those kinds of teams, but I didn't know anything about it. And then I didn't really have any other opportunities. So it was either get a 9-to-5, or was give myself a shot and go play indoor football and get some pro film and kind of see where I stand after that. So that's where we are right now.
So I've got kind of an interesting question then. I mean, you said you didn't really know much about the indoor football league at the time. Were you aware of the differences when it comes to the kicking, whether it's the deuce rule or the narrower narrower goalposts? And how did you prepare once you realized these rule differences were something you would have to deal with as a kicker?
Yeah, so I actually didn't know any of those rules. I knew the uprights were a lot shorter or narrower. But when I did see it for the first time, it was narrower than I thought it was by a lot. Because think it's college NFL are 18 feet wide 18 feet wide and 10 feet high, and indoors 9 feet wide and 15. So that was a big learning curve. I'm sorry, what was your second question?
How did you go about preparing for that? I mean, obviously, like you just said, 18 versus 9 feet. That's quite a bit harder to hit field goals on.
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was so. When my agent had texted me about the Rattlers, I want to say it was a Tuesday, and I signed the contract on a Wednesday, and I flew out of Pennsylvania on a Thursday. So I had a really quick turnaround because it was late February and camp was starting. So I really had no idea what I was kind of getting myself into. So I was just kind of thrown in there. First day, 9-foot uprights. So it was all brand new. I didn't have any time to practice or to kind of see what it's like at all. I struggled a little bit during camp. If you watch almost all IFL kickers except for me, a lot of them still do their 3-step process. And during camp, I was competing for the job with this other kicker, and I realized that if I wanted to make this team, I needed to really step up my accuracy. And so one day I stayed out, and part of the process that I do when I kick outside is no steps, and then it's 1 steps. So I was like, well, I'm gonna try the 1 steps and see how that goes. And once I did that, my accuracy really just kind of shot through the roof. And so I stuck with that. I finished out camp like that, and I think I finished out camp with like no misses. So I figured out that that's what was best for me. That helped me obviously make the team, and then have the season I did have.
Absolutely. TJ, you got anything else for him?
How do you feel that this past year's experience in the IFL may help you get a job maybe in an outdoor league like the UFL, CFL, or NFL? Given the fact, again, we did discuss you got to be a lot more accurate. So if you're accurate like you had in the championship game and really this whole season, it's really going to have a lot of eyes from the outdoor leagues looking at you.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm really just looking for an opportunity. I've said it before to other people that I'm not necessarily, looking to get signed. I'm looking for, an opportunity, to get an invite to camp, and just show what I'm capable of. But as far as it translating for me is, like you said, it's the accuracy. And I feel like I would say like the pressure and the fans, like in the indoor football league, as you know, like everyone's along the dasher boards, especially at away games. They're screaming at you, they're yelling at you, they're saying whatever they can. And then when you switch to outdoors, they're a lot further away. But I feel like that's helped me. If you can block that out from people that are 10, 15 yards away from you, then I think that would help in the outside game. Especially noise-wise, I would say that we've played places where it's like really loud, and I think being outside would definitely boost my chances of doing better than I have already this season inside.
Cody, do you have anything else for him?
Yeah, so just kind of looking at the stats and everything, overall field goal percentage-wise, you were the most accurate kicker in the indoor football league. Full on display in the championship game, totaling 11 points. Were you just kind of in the zone when the championship game rolled around? Was it just business as usual where you're just like, I'm going to try and
squib it as much as I can and hope for some rouges, kick some field goals. What was your thought process going into it?
Yeah, so we were the 4th seed going into the playoffs, and so we had played the Vegas Nighthawks in the first round, and I really had a bad game for myself. I missed 2 extra points that game. We ended up winning, but I'm a self-critic, and I'm really hard on myself. So, I told myself that that wasn't going to happen again, especially in the games coming up. They're really important, and extra points are important. That's a matter of a win or a loss. So the 2 weeks after that, I really tried to lock myself in, and let myself know that these kicks are important. And then as far as the squib kicks, if you can't see it on TV, playing in Vegas, they actually have a really, really low jumbotron. So when you play there, there is no kicking normally, trying to get some hang time and let your guys get down the field, because just of it being so low. So our plan was to kick it, cross field, left to right, or vice versa. My plan was just to kick it left to right, squib it, and kind of just try to put it into that corner. And we just got a little lucky, just the way the ball bounces. That as he went to field it kind of took another bounce to his left-hand side and rolled behind him, and we ended up getting that rouge. But yeah, the whole plan was to kind of just put it in corners and keep it away from the returners and try to let them handle the ball. And on that first kickoff, it worked out in our favor.
I would definitely agree. Speaking on your accuracy a little bit, you spoke on kind of how you had to change your tendencies on how you were kicking these balls, and you ended up going on to lead the league in field goal accuracy. So I'm kind of curious. I mean, I know TJ touched on it a little bit. Have you gotten any interest since the IFL season wrapped up from, leagues like the CFL or UFL, or even, perhaps the European League of Football?
Honestly, no, not really. I've maybe halfway through the season, my agent was he talked to a few UFL teams. He talked to maybe one CFL team, but I haven't really heard anything since then. So I feel like maybe it's kind of fallen through the cracks. But no, I haven't heard anything. I want to double down now. I feel like the time I need to stay outside kicking and working out and doing what I need to do. But I haven't heard anything from anybody, but I'm going to try to do what I can and see if I can get some interest. If I can't gain any traction as far as, just talking to people through my agent and stuff like that, then I might go to the UFL showcase in San Diego. I know Nick Novak and John Carney run one. So I might pick one of theirs and head out there in October. I don't necessarily want to, just because it's far away from me and it's a lot of money. But, if that's what I have to do, then that's what I have to do. But right now, I don't have anything going on. But I would say I have a little time, but I would definitely like to try to figure something out sooner than later.
Completely understand. CJ, did you have another question for him, or? Awesome. Dawson, we really appreciate your time this morning, man. And definitely want to thank you for your spending some time with us talking about the IFL championship and stuff. Congratulations on the championship win. Congratulations on leading the league in field goal percentage. I mean, both big feats for a rookie kicker. I mean, like you spoke about before, the IFL kicking game is no joke, especially when you have to consider the rouges, the deuces, the narrower goalposts, all of that. So really hope that you find success and hope that a UFL team comes calling, because there was definitely some teams that could use your help in 2025. Any final thoughts or anybody you want to shout out before we let you get out of here?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for letting me come on and talk about it. no, if any coach does see this though, hopefully they get in touch and watch my film and see what I'm capable of. But I appreciate you guys for letting me come on and talk about it.
Absolutely. Anytime, man. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll definitely catch you in the future.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and hit a quick commercial break, and then we will return to talk a whole bunch of news with the IFL, NAL, and ask our player guests some questions as well. So be Sorry about that. Just realized I was muted. So I always like to support those athlete-run businesses. So if you are looking for some workout clothing, go check out S Time for Fitness and use our code Shady Sports to save 10% on any of your purchases. We have a whole lot of news to talk about, with reports that there might be IFL teams going away, with AFL teams potentially being rumored to move. All kinds of stuff. But the biggest piece of news that I really wanted to talk about here first is the fact that Dixie Wooten has been hired as the first head coach for the Fishers Freight. So I wanted to go kind of around the board here and see all of your guys' thoughts on this situation. Let's go with Julian first. Julian, I know you're local to the area. You have desire to hopefully end up on the Fishers Freight team this year. What are your thoughts about Dixie Wooten being hired as the first head coach for the team?
It's a great hire, man. A really great hire. I heard a lot of great things. I've actually been, watching the games, and going back and watching, how he calls plays and how things are implemented. But it's a great hire, and then it's been, such a great thing for the Fishers Freight to either come here to this city, and because we've been wanting this for a very long time. I've been a part of organizations here that have tried, and this is something that's really huge for the city. So having him coming here with his experience and with the level of coaching that he has, it's going to be really good for the Fishers Freight for sure.
Definitely agree on that. CJ, you're a coach and a player, so I'm kind of curious, what are your thoughts on this hire, and do you think going with an experienced indoor football coach for the first year was the right move for them?
Yeah, I mean, like Julian said, I think it's probably the best case scenario for Fishers. Not every day do you have an opportunity to hire a coach that has a championship pedigree. Coach Leota talked about earlier with him winning in Iowa and winning in Tucson and winning in Bay Area. He's been a part of two essentially expansion franchises and, an organization with Iowa that's, got a lot of history and tucked away and diehard fans. So he's kind of got everything you're looking for. Obviously when you hire a veteran coach as your first coach, that comes with some growing pains. Guys who've been around the game know what it takes to win. And I don't believe that Coach Wooten would have accepted the job if they weren't going to give him the necessary tools to compete to win. I don't believe he would go there to say, hey, we're going to just feel it out year one. And, if we can get close to 500, that's a win. That's just not his personality. Tucson was pretty dang good when he was there, and the success they had offensively when he took over in Bay Area from year one to year two was massive. So I don't think that he's going in there with medium expectations. And I just hopefully their ownership group, which from everything I've read, seen, heard, is very solid and very supportive and doing a great job in the community, that they give him the tools to be successful. Because if you bring in a younger coach, then you can kind of ownership can dictate what they feel is important. But when you bring in a guy with this resume, you've got to be open to doing what he needs. Because I mean, I feel like everyone on this call knows who his first call is going to be as the head coach. So, yeah, I think it's a great hire, good move for them. I don't know if there was too many people that would have been able to give them what they wanted with a name recognition as a first-year franchise.
That's a great point. Definitely expect to eventually see DeQuan Neal, in a Fisher's Freight uniform. Maybe we're wrong, but he's basically been with Dixie everywhere he's gone. Cody, you're the resident IFL expert, so I want to definitely get your thoughts on this hire. I mean, we kind of talked about this in our group chat on the network page for a while. It's kind of been rumored that he was going to be the guy, but now we finally have confirmation.
Yeah, when we talked about it on the show a couple weeks ago about who we thought would be head coaching candidates, I brought him up along with like Curtis Chin and a couple of others, and I think he was honestly the most qualified out of every one of them. Just a couple of years ago, we were talking who was going to be the head coach between him or Rob Keefe out in Bay Area after Darren Arbette said, "See ya." So it was curious to me that no one took a stab at him last year. But at the same time, it's a great hire this year. You see what Bay Area has been able to accomplish with him at the helm as offensive coordinator. There is a little bit of not weariness, but like sometimes it didn't look like Bay Area's offense was that good last season, but that's kind of a testament to what the Western Conference was. So I think moving him out east, as Sean Liotta said earlier in the interview, he knows the area. He's won a championship with Iowa. He's done all of that stuff out there in the Midwest and stuff. So I see it as a very, very good hire. As we all know, DeQuan Neal is going to be the first phone call. If he doesn't get him, like I've said, I think he might reach out to Felix Harper or something. I know he's probably got a quarterback locked down. The ownership looks ready to win. With the stuff we're going to talk about here in a minute, it looks like Fishers could be, honestly, a very fringe playoff team in their first year.
Yeah, actually, we will get to that in a second because I'm beginning to think you're right on that one. TJ, why don't you go ahead and give us your take on this as well?
I think it was an excellent hire. Just looking at his resume, two-time champion, two-time coach of the year, one-time assistant coach of the year. And the most important thing in sports, his head coaching record is just over an average of 2-1 wins, losses. You win 2 out of every 3 games in the regular season, you expect to make it to the playoffs. So it was really a no-brainer. And again, I'm surprised, like it's already been said, he wasn't already approached last season about another head coaching job of some kind. But I think Fishers is definitely in a very good spot, and they can definitely be a contender this year, without a doubt, in the IFL.
I definitely agree. And one of the things that we're going to go ahead and just jump into right now is the fact that there's been some rumors floating around that the Sioux Falls Storm and Frisco Fighters might be in danger. So if you look at the landscape of the IFL right now, and even though there was reports that with Fishers coming in, Frisco was going to move to the West, which if they stick around, that's even more reason to kind of lean towards Fishers being a pretty solid playoff contender in 2025. But you look at the Eastern Conference, and realistically, I mean, not to throw any shade at anybody, but that's been the easier of the 2 conferences in the IFL for many years now. So, if you lose a team like Sioux Falls and Fishers comes in, they are positioned very well to kind of come in and do some damage right away, depending on how this roster shapes up in 2025. So, obviously, if you haven't seen the rumors, it sounds like Sioux Falls is having a little bit of issues with their venue, and that could ultimately end up with them going dormant for the 2025 season. And then it sounds like Frisco is in the middle of a sale process, to an ECHL team owner, which could be a good thing in the long run. You know, one of the things that we've talked about at length recently is the fact that some of these new franchises coming in are tied to hockey teams, which has kind of made it a little bit easier to run an IFL team because first of all, you already have that prior relationship with a venue. And then two, a lot of the people are working in both franchises. So it's kind of saving some money in that aspect. And then also giving these people, longer contracts with their jobs, so they're more likely to stick around. So given this rumor that's come out, and then the obviously addition of Fishers, how do you guys think the East shapes up? And we'll go back to Julian first here.
It changes a lot, because those are pretty good franchises. So changes the dynamic a lot, but we still got to play. Still got to be able to go out there and win your matchups and things like that. But you always go into a situation wherever you have, you just kind of you go through it, you go with it, and the game plan from there. But definitely having those two potentially out could change a lot, but you always still go with that same mindset of, just still trying to win.
Absolutely. And to be clear, for anybody watching, I guarantee I speak for everybody on this panel that we all hope that they figure out their issues and continue to play in football. Frisco's been a great franchise since they've joined the IFL. Sioux Falls is one of the most legendary franchises in any indoor football league. It doesn't matter what the acronym is for that league name. CJ, I know you were kind of taken aback when we talked about this privately. Now that you've had some time to kind of digest this rumor, what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I mean, we unfortunately that's indoor arena football. I mean, the fail rate is almost 100%. I mean, you get very few teams that make it to that pinnacle of a Sioux Falls Storm, a Arizona Rattlers, Omaha Beat. Like, if you're making it 20 plus years, you're doing something right. But even then, times change. You and I talked about it. The biggest thing is, attendance makes or breaks these teams. You get on the IFL fan forum every time Frisco plays, and the first 8 comments are about how they don't have a lot of fans in the stands. You turn on a Sioux Falls game, and once again, I think a lot of this deals with how these arenas set up their cameras and stuff. But you see empty seats for one reason or another, and for any team, no matter who it is, the Rattlers, anybody. These teams can't survive if they don't have attendance. And not that that's necessarily the issues with these teams, but, it probably does have conversations. Does the arena in Sioux Falls say, well, if you're not bringing in 50% attendance, we could use that night that you would play and give it to someone else, give it to a concert or something that's going to make us money. At the end of the day, it's all about money. But as far as the impact, if these teams end up having to go dormant, which I hate when teams use these fancy terminologies and, we're going dormant, or we're doing, at least 90% of teams that go dormant don't come back. So just call it what it is. Don't try to sell a false hope. But it definitely will hurt the IFL, especially the Eastern Division. You lose a team like Sioux Falls. I mean, that's a lot of history. They won 7 straight or 6 straight IFL championships. Frisco's been in the playoffs, I feel like, every year since they're, became a team. So, I hope it doesn't happen. I hope they get it both worked out. Sam, you and I talked about it. I think if teams can partner with hockey teams and stuff like that, especially newer teams, there's so many more resources available for you. You look at a team like Frisco, if that hockey team has 20,000 followers on their social media, that's 20,000 more eyes you can then market Frisco to. So I hope they both can get it worked out. I'd hate to see either one of those franchises not be in the IFL in 2025 because I think the IFL needs them for one reason or another.
I would agree. I mean, like we said, these are storied franchises already. Sioux Falls, legendary, had that run to begin the IFL that was impressive. But yeah, ultimately, I mean, this is not good news for anybody involved in the IFL. And hopefully they figure out these issues and they continue playing as if none of this ever happened. But ultimately, this is something that popped up on Reddit recently. I know it's kind of making the rounds, so we definitely want to discuss it today. And a lot of what was said in that Reddit post is stuff that I've kind of heard, floating around, but it was stuff that I wasn't confident putting out because I didn't have confirmation. So, this is rumors. I don't want to say it here and say that this is all 100% true. This could very well not turn into a single thing. So I'm not saying this is confirmed, but this is something that definitely had to be talked about on the show. I mean, we're discussing all the recent and breaking news for all these indoor leagues. So something that we definitely had to discuss. Cody, I know we've talked about this off screen, but how do you see this affecting the IFL? And if it were you were the Todd Tryon, what would you do to balance out these conferences as well?
If I'm Todd Tryon, I don't necessarily have a say in what teams come and go unless there's something with their agreement. I mean, I think we're all understanding that when teams sign on to certain leagues or things like that, they have a contract that they sign for a certain amount of years that they stay in the league. So I don't know if they are on a year-by-year basis after the first contract is up or whatever. As you balance it out, it depends. I mean, I think Frisco right now is probably getting a better chance at getting an arena, but on the flip side, Sioux Falls has ownership. So we're waiting for the change of ownership from Frisco from one side to another. Sioux Falls already has that. They're just looking for an arena, and they are looking at an arena. But the thing about it is, if you balance out these conferences, it's pretty simple. You just throw Fishers into the East, and then it's was it 8 in the West and 7 in the East, and then you wonder that Todd Tryon has always said he wants even amount of teams. He doesn't want to deal with bye weeks. He doesn't want to deal with anything like that. Is it something where they have to jump the gun on an expansion team that they might have lined up for 2026? I don't think they'd be doing that. Do they go with uneven? I'm not sure. I mean, that's kind of all of the questions. Do you go try and pluck someone from another league if they want to, join? He did say on an interview last year that they had 7 teams apply to join the Indoor Football League. They took Jacksonville and San Antonio. So are there other teams applying? What vetting methods are you going to do for that ownership? Like, there's a lot to deal with if this all is confirmed.
Yeah, again, I can't say this enough. We all hope that this is not confirmed. I would really love for this to be one of the rumors that we've talked about on this show that is untrue. And ultimately, that's what we're all hoping happens. But TJ, go ahead and give us your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, I think it would be a real downer for the league. Sioux Falls has been around forever. And to happen because of a potential venue issue would just be unfortunate. And Frisco, they came in instantly a force. They had that veteran kind of feel to it as a franchise. Kind of made a little splash right out of the gate, hiring Clint Dalzell as their first head coach when they came in, and they've kind of had what I call the Manning Colts syndrome, where they kind of run the league in the regular season, but just can't get over the hump in the postseason. It would be unfortunate if they're unable to continue play, especially with all these new teams coming in the next couple of years projected by the IFL, and it would kind of take a step back for the IFL too if this were to happen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't want to see that. They've been able to bring in more teams. They were headed to what we thought was going to be 18 teams in 2025, and now it's looking like it probably is going to fall a little bit shy of that, given the fact that we still haven't heard anything about the Bucks, and then with these concerns about Sioux Falls and Frisco as well. TJ, I love your terminology there for Frisco, because honestly, that's exactly how I feel about him. Peyton Manning was a great regular season quarterback for the Colts for many years, but they never seemed to get over the hump there. But ultimately, this is something, again, that we hope does not end up being true. Never want to discuss anything negative for any of these leagues, especially most of all the IFL, which has been one of the most stable. Anytime that you see issues with the IFL, you have to wonder, does this mean bigger things for other teams down the road? Do you see teams move? It just creates more uncertainty. But with that, this is the Ralph Wiggum segment of the day. We're going to go ahead and move on to some other subjects at hand. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I did want to get you guys' thoughts on the IFL Championship. As we all know, we just discussed with Dawson, Arizona won, but it was in the matter that they won that became a little bit surprising to me. Cody, I know you put a futures bet on Arizona many, many months ago. So let's go ahead and start with you on this one. Were you, I don't want to say surprised, but were you surprised by the outcome of the game? Not necessarily Arizona winning, but how they won.
I can unmute my mic. Let me just pull out my fake Monopoly money with my futures bet right there. But no, for Arizona to win, it was kind of almost the same game plan that they had against San Diego. Just blitz, 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 and as Curtis Riggs said on the color commentary, all Connor Taylor was doing in that game was literally blitzing up the middle, forcing Jimmy Robinson to block, and he could not get out any space, which ruined their running game. And as soon as Arizona's defense just really started to clamp down and ruin the timing routes and everything of Alejandro Benefield, they just knew that they were going to win it. It just, ever since the opening rouge of that game, it just seemed like Arizona took command, and they shut them out in the first half. Man, it was brutal to see. But when you negated Jimmy Robinson from really doing anything, and I'm not saying Robinson was their entire offense, but at the same time, Thomas Owens being out, the offense just did not look in sync. And whether or not you want to believe rumors that they were partying the night before, it doesn't matter. They're here to play a game, and they just did not get off the blocks.
Absolutely. And, to be honest, I don't necessarily put any stock into them partying before the game, even if they were. I mean, we've all done it before. We've all partied before something important, or we've all, gone out the night before something important and still been able to show up. So I don't necessarily put any stock in that particular rumor. But Julian, what were your thoughts on the IFL Championship? Did you expect Arizona to dominate in the way they did?
Yeah, you never count anybody out, especially Arizona. They're a historical franchise. I know they had a tough, because I've been watching a lot of games this year just because of sitting out. They had a lot of in and out injuries, things like that. And towards the end they start getting more of the guys back. They start kind of clicking more, things like that. But you never count a team out, man, especially them. So I know it was going to be a good game. But obviously, never count out Arizona. Especially with a legendary coach of Coach Guy. Never want to count that out, and it was a good thing to see that for sure.
Absolutely. And this is their second IFL championship, if I'm not mistaken. The last one being in 2017. The last loss, if I'm not mistaken, was to Massachusetts. So always love to see those little rivalries building within. Plus, the situation last season with the fight between fans and Massachusetts players in Arizona. I mean, there's a budding rivalry there for sure. CJ, what were your thoughts on the IFL championship game?
I think, Julian hit a lot of it on the head. Early in the season, Arizona did not look like themselves. I believe they played 2 or 3 different quarterbacks within the first 6 weeks of the season. So it goes to show that with the IFL season being 16 games, I believe, that as long as you're in the race at the midway point or a little bit past it, you always have a chance. And then when Dalton Snead came back, they were a completely different team. I think he is reaching that point right now in the IFL where he's in that top 3, top 5 conversation of indoor quarterback. But getting him back, getting a lot of their guys back, and I don't know. I've watched a lot of mass games. I had one of my former players play against them this year, so I turned on a couple of their games, and they just didn't look like the team that they've had the last couple of years. They were beating. They turn around and have a really good win, and then they beat a sub 500 team by a late touchdown. And it just, with as much talent as they have, with the names that they have, the all IFL selections, and this guy was in this NFL camp and this guy did this, you kind of thought they would be a little bit better off all season, but they got hot at the right time. I just think when it comes down to it, I think it came down to coaching and making key plays. And I think Arizona went back and watched that 2021 championship and said they didn't care if they had to play for 5 overtimes. They weren't walking off that field without the win. So I think you could tell from the jump, they were the faster, more physical team.
I definitely agree. And I love what Cody said about the blitzing with Connor Taylor. That dude wrecked Massachusetts' game plan basically single-handedly. TJ, what are your thoughts? And then we'll go ahead and move on. TJ, we still got you? You're frozen? Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm back. Yeah, that game was dominant by the Arizona Rallians, and they weren't going to let have happen what happened a few years ago in the same game, happened twice. It's funny because at the beginning of the year when they got off to that rough start, I remember thinking to myself, man, what's up with Arizona this year? I guess it's wide open now. And then, fast forward a few months, joke's on me. But, just a really dominant performance, and another reason why, Kevin Guy and his coaching staff has always been looked up to over the years, because they just can turn on a dime, make what looks to be like a bad season into a championship season like we saw. And they went on a crazy run after a rough start, too, to do it. So hats off to them. They definitely deserve the championship.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, impressive run. And like you said, they started off and they stumbled immediately, and it didn't look like they were going to be the team that they were used to seeing from Arizona. So that was awesome to see that. Obviously some injury issues there early on in the season didn't help their case, but ultimately they rebounded. Kevin Guy said it, in the media day for the IFL that he did not want to lose this game. That obviously he had been beaten in the championship game by Massachusetts once before. So he was trying to make sure that didn't happen again. So we're going to take one more commercial break, and then we're going to get in some AFL news and wrap this thing up.
Winter is coming.
And he can make something magical happen here. And there goes the ball. It's going. It's going. You're a fan. Hold on now.
At the 30, and he
Who's going to take victory?
He's and that's what championship points matter.
It's time for war.
Follow your passion first. First. It's the most fun thing in the world. You get up in the morning excited about what you're doing. And you got to be really honest with yourself about it. And you got to sit there and ask yourself, okay, what am I truly passionate about? What do I enjoy doing?
All right. So a lot has been coming out on Twitter recently. If you're following all of the accounts that cover the AFL, well, we're going to start with a report very recently from arenafan.com. Justin, an announcement is expected in September on the future of the Arena Football League and its members' teams. Billings owner Stephen Titus didn't respond to requests confirming his commitment as to play as a part of the AFL in 2025. Never fear, though. Billings responded quite quickly and said, "We will be playing in football in 2025, guaranteed." The arena fan went on to say, "More early information indicates current AFL teams returning under a new banner, but still playing arena football rules." So obviously, there's a lot to unpack here. Let's go ahead and start at the top. Obviously, they discussed the fact that there's a good chance that the name change is coming. But the rules will remain the same. And then also the commitment as to which teams will return to the AFL in 2025. So obviously a bunch of questions there to answer. Definitely would like to get all of you guys' thoughts on this one. Let's go to TJ first. TJ, when you think about potential AFL name change, are there any names that you would see sticking out to you in particular?
Maybe they could go throwback. I believe the first reboot, they were going to call themselves AF1. So maybe that. Honestly, I think any kind of a name change would kind of defeat the purpose of bringing this league back. After one season, you're going to change the iconic name. Yeah, it took a beating this past year, but in my opinion, the only reason they really had the drive to succeed is because of the name's sake. And that's the reason why so many people stuck with it, because call it nostalgia, call it desperation, whatever, people missed the AFL. So in my opinion, to change, if that rumor is true, to change the AFL moniker to something different, even if it remains exactly the same league in every other way, it would kind of be a smack in the face to the fans. I think they should try to keep the AFL name as best they can, unless there's some kind of behind the scenes legal issues that we're unaware of.
I'm speculating here. So again, speculation. I believe this is to their desire to kind of distance themselves from G6. I could be wrong, but a G6 owns all the naming rights to the AFL. So to me, where there's smoke, there's fire. So if you're wanting to change the name, why are you wanting to change the name? In my mind, it has to be because of G6. And maybe there's some stuff to the reports that Chris Chetty isn't the guy that we thought he was, and then maybe the G6 isn't as great as they looked when they came in and kind of saved the day there at the end due to Hutton and Gaines. But Cody, I know you're more of an IFL fan than you are an AFL fan, but I'm curious to hear your input on a potential name change for the AFL. Do you think that immediately puts the IFL back in position to be the top league, for many, many years to come?
If the Arena Football League changes their name to whatever it is, AF1, AF2, whatever the case could be, the people will still watch. But yeah, it's not gonna. I don't think you'd put it as a quote top tier. It drops down to NAL, CIF style, some or another like that. And I know people already had put it there just based on what happened to start the season and dwindling down to 8 teams and stuff like that. So whether it's dealing with the legal issues that you guys are talking about, or whether it's dealing with anything else with Hutton or Gaines, it just kind of reeks of something. And we even just heard Dawson Evans say it in the interview. He only knows the indoor stuff from the Arena Football League, from the Philly Soul. This is the only league that has gotten mainstream television on NBC, ESPN, TNT, anything like that. And to change that name, no one's going to recognize it, even if you still have the Albany Firebirds or the Nashville Cats. It's just like the Indoor Football League. We have the Iowa Barnstormers. We have the Jacksonville Sharks. We have the Arizona Rattlers. Okay, cool. We only have one game a year on CBS Sports Network. So what does that kind of tell you? It means we still got dedicated fans, but we're not getting on TV.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's how you draw in the casual fans. There's been a lot of talk on putting the IFL championship game on CBS, which we've discussed in the past, so we're not going to spend time here on that again. But there's definitely a situation where if you want to grow the game, you want to grow your league, you kind of at some point have to put games on TV where casual sports fans will see it and latch on. Julian, you've played in multiple different leagues throughout your career. How big is the name Arena Football League in your opinion?
As a player, man, I think, one of the things I've learned, playing this game is knowing the history of the game, knowing what works, knowing what don't work. And, going all the way back, I had to go all the way back to, what they tried in the late 80s. They try to do like wing T and stuff like that, and it didn't work. Right. So AFL has been a huge name, man, to arena football. We had the Firebirds here as well. So that was something that, used to watch on TV. I never knew what it was, but I watched it. I thought it was pretty cool, when I was younger. But AFL is a huge name. And it kind of drawed up more other leagues to come in and try to bring their own self there as well too. So, it's going to take a lot of building. I think they can be able to do that. It's going to be a lot of building and a lot of some good hard work to try to get them back to the AFL. But it is definitely a huge name for sure.
In your opinion, do you think that the AFL needs to stick with that name if they're going to grow this and continue to get on TV?
Yeah, I think changing the name doesn't, like I said, doesn't change, the things that they need to do. So I think, they could be able to still keep the name, is try to work on things that they need to do and try to get things going for sure though. So
Definitely fair. TJ, I don't believe CJ, correct? CJ, we have not gotten your take on this. Let's go ahead and get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally see, on the surface, obviously don't know the inner workings, but I don't see what changing the name benefits. People are going to still associate things with what they know. As a player, the Arena Football League was, the pinnacle for guys, myself included, who went to a smaller school and, knew that chances at the NFL and things like that were small. So, when the Arena Football League was really going after that reboot and, it was in its prime. And I mean, I remember in college watching games and doing stuff like that. And, so when you looked at it, you thought of like, this is what professional indoor football, arena football is supposed to look like. Obviously, this third relaunch had a lot of issues, and I don't necessarily think that teams need to be running out there or abandoning ship yet. I think that continue to let things play out and see what happens. You still got a lot of time between now and March, April, when most leagues are start up or have started up to make decisions. But I want to go back to a point that Cody brought up. I think I don't know if you got to rush to get national TV exposure for these leagues right now, because I think that's what YouTube does. YouTube allows the nation to view what you're selling. I think where you can help grow these teams right now is push to get local television contracts. Start there. If Vegas has a local network that'll put it on Channel 2 cable network or whatever, you start with those local fans, and then once you start packing your arena, then you start growing. But I think what the downfall of the AFL multiple times is you grow too big too fast, which I know you guys have said before on here. And that's the case with a lot of these leagues. That's why there's been, you can look up on a Wikipedia page, there's probably been 20 plus different indoor arena leagues using every letter of the alphabet. So I definitely think after this past year, Albany was a bright spot, Billings was a bright spot, but there were some struggles, and I definitely think because of those struggles, it dropped that AFL, what everyone thought the AFL was going to be coming back, it dropped them down to that lower level. So
That's completely fair because I think everybody thought originally coming out with all the promises being made from Lean Hutton and Travell Gaines that there was going to be a much more impressive, a launch, but ultimately and ended up falling short a lot of the promises given. With the NAL losing the nets, there is a hole for a large arena-style league, but the nostalgia is key selling point for that league. I definitely would agree on that. And the Arena Football League name just carries a certain weight, when you're talking arena football, indoor football. TJ, did I get your opinion on this one? Okay. Sorry, I'm getting a little confused here, switching up the order on myself and kind of screwing up my thought process here. But we got one more AFL subject, and then we got a little bit of NAL. Sorry, stuff to touch on. This cracked me up when I saw this because I have never heard anything about Albany leaving. Everything I've heard has been that Albany was not leaving, but here we are. Arena Insider said that Albany Firebirds commit to a return to indoor football in 2025. Now, this could just be a play on words. A lot of people do not really discern differences between indoor and arena football. I used to be one of them. I have since been educated by many more smart people than I am that there are a lot of differences between the two leagues. So saying indoor football is something I've tried to remove from my vocabulary, and I say indoor or arena football. But this was misconstrued a little bit, I feel, and a lot of people started running with the theory that Albany could jump to the IFL and kind of complete out that Eastern Division as they potentially lose two teams. So I'm curious to get all of you guys' thoughts on this, as well as Jeff Levesque's comments, which came last night on Rebound Off the Net's interview with him, which definitely go check that out as well. Albany Firebirds president Jeff Levesque tells Rebound the Net host Joshua Cox they are committed to arena football. We have two sets of nets. If you're not hanging nets, we're not playing in your league. And then you can see down there at the bottom, Stephen Titus echoed that. So any qualms about either one of these teams returning to the AFL or whatever name they play under in 2025 have basically been silenced right there. There is one more caveat here that Arena Insider did release, and this is a good one. MVP Arena and the Firebirds have a 3-year lease, and they will be going into their second year next season. That's a big one. That means Firebirds are not going away anytime soon, at least not due to venue issues. So, I mean, obviously that's a big deal for the AFL, assuming that they have the Firebirds to kind of build that backbone for many years to come. So I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on this. I mean, just real quick, obviously there isn't much to this one, but, did you ever see a potential of Albany actually leaving the AFL? Let's go to CJ first. You're shaking your head there.
No, I don't know. I didn't put too much stock in it. They never really struck me as a team that would want to do that. So I think that their owner's right. I mean, they spent a lot of money on the nets, and that's why I was going to say to that person's comment, like, there is a hole for arena football, but those nets do cost a lot of money to own and operate, purchase, and have people set up. So, teams aren't running to do that. But no, I don't think they're going anywhere unless the whole AFL, AF1, whatever they decide to call themselves, didn't give them an opportunity to come play. I think they'll be a true arena style team for as long as they can be.
Yeah, and I mean, to Levesque's credit, it pretty much sounds like he's saying the exact same thing. TJ, we'll go to you next. What are your thoughts on this? And did you ever see a potential of Albany ultimately landing in the IFL? TJ?
Yeah, I think it was just a misuse of technical wording. That they were going to try their best to finish out the season in the AFL, so I don't see them jumping ship. I think it was just a misstep with wording in the post.
Absolutely. Julian, what are your thoughts on this? Would you ever see a situation where Albany jumps over the IFL unless they had no other choice?
Oh no, I think like I said, this kind of miscommunication. Social media can, can turn a lot of things into something else. So, but y'all, I think they're going to kind of stay. They investing a lot of money into the AFL and things like that. Like I said, if some big old change happened to the AFL, then something comes up. But I agree, definitely they'll probably stay in there for sure.
Agreed. And then finally, we'll go to Cody, and then we'll kind of move on to some NAL topics, and we'll have to get CJ back here for that one. So, yeah, I mean, your thoughts? I mean, did you ever see a scenario where Albany ultimately ended up in the IFL? I know there were some rumors last season before they chose the AFL.
I personally don't see any way that they go IFL unless it's absolutely necessary. When you look back through the history of Albany as a market, whether it's been the Empire, the original Firebirds, the Conquest, it's all been arena based. I don't know if they've ever had an indoor style team. Now, does that mean things can't change? I mean, CJ kind of touched on it. There are plenty of owners that don't want to pay for those nets. And if you are Billings, if you are Albany, and you are able to get people into your league to pay for those nets and go that route, more power to you. But the fact that the NAL is dropping the nets, the fact that you've had teams or leagues like the CIF, the IFL, and any other alphabet league that just kind of doesn't use nets because they're too expensive. It just kind of goes to show you that that's kind of the way that things are going. You're going to have to eventually adapt or die in some regard, unless you can, feed on that nostalgia, which just seems to be going away a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the nostalgia is kind of waning a little bit as we go further here, but definitely was something that caught me off guard because, even on the IFL side, I had heard that Albany was not a realistic possibility in 2025. So when it came out, it was interesting. But the more that I saw from people online, I realized that this was just a twisting of words that was probably not intended to be said in that manner. It was kind of an oversight, which can happen. Again, I used to think the same thing, indoor and arena football, it's all the same. It's not, unfortunately. Nets are a big part of that and a big cost, which, we could sit here and debate all day the merits of having nets versus not having them and whether or not, the cost outweighs what you get in return for entertainment value. But we have a little bit more NAL news to talk about, but we're going to go to CJ on this one to introduce this topic. He's kind of our resident NAL guy. So I'm curious, you kind of hit me up with some rumors that you had heard recently. So what have you heard, sir?
Yeah. So, without divulging too much, because, nothing's official. It's all hearsay until it happens. But, right now it's on the NAL front, all the teams seem to be pretty stable, even with the expansion of Shreveport and Amarillo, talking to different people within the league. People seem very confident with those two organizations, especially Shreveport with their ownership and things like that. But then right now there's talks that the NAL could be up as high as 16 teams by the start of the 2025 season, with a potential of two more expansion teams and two more teams that, if they get announced, fans will kind of give the NAL a little bit more respect on bringing in established teams. I guess I'll leave it at that. Leave a little cliffhanger for all the fans. But yeah, so I don't want to give up too much because, like I said, I don't want my sources to be frustrated because they're people that probably know more than I should know. So, but yeah, be prepared for probably some more announcements. Don't know when, don't know where, anything like that. But listening to the commissioner talk on another podcast, the plan is to start putting together the schedule in September and releasing it early October. So, still gives a month or so to add teams. And, I wouldn't be surprised if those teams have been approved and they're configuring the schedule currently to see how it all plays out before they announce them.
Absolutely. Scheduling, as we know in the NAL in particular, has been difficult over the past couple seasons. So I'm sure they're coming up with some alternatives and, having every sort of different scenario prepared because, the past couple seasons they've had to kind of fall back on some of those preparations. So yeah, I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts here. Obviously, 16 teams from 5. That's a dramatic jump. So at what point do we feel like the NAL might be growing too big too fast? I mean, I don't want any doubt to enter anybody's head about the NAL because of how they've expanded. It's been a lot of established teams, not many expansion teams, which is always a good thing to see. But at the same time, 16, adding 11 teams in one off season, that's crazy. So let's go to TJ first. I know you spent some time in the NAL. What are your thoughts on this particular situation?
I feel pretty good about it where it sits right now. It's been done dozens of times in the past with all kinds of different leagues and sports. You grow too fast and then those teams falter either in season or they truly add I'll say exact expansion teams. They have the merger, so some teams that were already existing already know how the operation costs go, already know what they have to put out there. But right now, it's obviously still a big jump in the teams they have now compared to what they ended last regular season with. But right now, I feel comfortable. If they continue to add more teams that are legitimate expansion teams, I may get a little worrisome. But as for right now, I am trusting in their vetting process and everything that they've done so far this year with new teams.
Absolutely. Cody, any thoughts on the potential of NAL kicking off 2025 with 16 teams?
It doesn't bother me whatsoever. I mean, we've run the gambit of 16 teams in the Arena Football League dwindling down to 8. We've had 5 teams in the NAL bounce up to 16. You've seen, as we've talked about this entire show, teams like Sioux Falls and Frisco could potentially go dormant. It just depends on how deep your owner's pockets are, the sponsorships you can get, the location, and the fan base that shows up. I mean, if those extra 5 teams at Amarillo, at Shreveport, if all of those teams can get good fan bases, look at, as CJ pointed out, maybe some local TV deals, things along those lines to really beef that up, and your owner has deep pockets, more power to you. However, how many times have we seen teams go one and done? I don't know these extra 5 teams. There's been rumors and stuff that Amarillo's coming in, that they're kind of already on shaky ground. You heard things from the teams from the AIF with Corpus Christi or Harrisburg or whatever, jumping up. Things along those lines where you're just like, okay, well, if the owner has deep pockets, they're able to make it work. They can make it work, but it's always a question of how long.
Great point. Julian, you've again you've got experience in multiple different leagues. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, obviously we always want to see more opportunities for players, but did you ever see a scenario where the NAL could go from 5 teams to 16, which they've never had in the past?
No, potentially thinking that, but it's all about the resources. Having the resources to be able to do that. Yes, it does give more opportunities for players, but just definitely having the resources to make it more sustainable. Those things are very, very key, because if you try something out and it doesn't work because you don't have the resources, obviously we'll see it doesn't last very long. So, but hopefully, everything goes well with him as well. So we just see what happens.
Absolutely. CJ, I'll pose you the same question that I posed to everybody else. At what point do you get concerned that the NAL is growing too big, too fast?
Yeah. So, I think we've said it. We've all said it before. You know, if all the teams they were announcing were expansion teams, I think that would be a big red flag. Obviously, everything is year to year in the indoor arena game. You know, team could be here, you know, Sioux Falls and Frisco, like we're talking about. You know, everything's year to year. But I think if we think everything's year to year, then that's how we have to look at each team that they bring in. That's how we have to look at the NAL for 2025. We can't worry about, are these same 16 potential teams going to be there in 2026 and 2027? Because good, bad, or indifferent, it's outside of all of our control. So, you know, I think that they're in a good area. You know, and I think that there's a lot of positives to growing. You know, and bringing in, like you said, Sam, bringing in teams that were playing last year. You know, you look at the NAL going into 2024, you had Topeka, who was struggling in the CIF. You had North Texas, who hadn't played since pre-COVID. You had the Flying Aces, who hadn't played since pre-COVID. You had, I think that was it. But like that right there was red flags. But I think with what they're growing with Columbus, who steady as it comes, you know, and with, you know, Corpus Christi and Harrisburg, I know their Corpus is a second-year franchise. Harrisburg's in a reboot, but there's history. There's people who've been there. There's people who know what it takes, to make this thing work. And I also think the NAL's changed now. I think with the new commissioner bringing in and being more stern on the salary cap, being more, you know, proactive instead of reactive. I think the thing that had doomed the NAL for so long was teams were paying to win. And not that you're not trying to pay guys to win, but you look at the rosters of NAL teams this year compared to the last couple years. You know, you didn't have Tommy Grady making a random appearance, or, you know, Darius Prince. You know, so now I think it's setting the teams up for longer term success to finish seasons when they're not pressured to say, well, I got to pay whatever this guy was making in insert team name last year. I got to try to pay that to get him on my team. You know, I think, and that's why the IFL has been so successful, in my opinion. You build with younger guys. You bring in some key vets. You know, you take care of them however you feel fit as a organization, but you build the bulk of your team through younger guys, rookies, guys that are in their first couple years that don't have, you know, the resume to move up yet, and that saves you money. You know, I could only imagine what an Albany Empire payroll was in 21, 22, and 23 when they were in the NAL with all those names. But now, you know, you compare that to, which was in Shreveport's press release, that the salary cap's at $6,500. Now, will there be guys that probably get paid under the table from their ownerships? Yeah, that happens everywhere in indoor arena football. But if your actual payroll that you're legally responsible for paying out is less than what it was last year, that saves money. So, you know, I think ideally if you do get 16, you cut it and you don't talk expansion for at least 2 more years. And then kind of revisit it. You know, I was looking at the IFL, for like a 6-year stretch from like 2015 to 2022. They had 10 teams, dropped down to 6 teams, shot back up to 10, went to 12, went to 14. Now they're up at 16. And then potentially could be at 18, or they could be down to 14. So, you know, I think the sweet spot is that 10 to 16 range where you can do division play, you can cut travel cost, And I think that's what the NAL is trying to do. I think they're trying to model what they're doing off the success the IFL is doing, which is a great business model of trying to, cut costs. I mean, Arizona, the Rattlers play Northern Arizona and Tucson, it feels like every other week instead of having to travel out and play mass or, do things like that every other week. So, it'll be positive. And I think you build in a buffer, good, bad, or indifferent. If a team goes under during the season, if you're sitting at 16 teams, it's a little bit easier to kind of navigate versus being at 5 teams going into the season essentially, and then a team dropping out. Now you have to reconfigure everything.
Completely agree. So this was basically our last topic for the day. But I did want to give everybody a chance to kind of go around and give their final thoughts. And we're actually going to start with Julian on this one. Julian, if you wanted to take this time to kind of to make your case for being a member of the Fisher Freight, be my guest.
Oh man, I heard you when this came out, almost a year ago. It was something that was a kind of a dream come true. So, I was training. I didn't know where I was going to play for next year, and I ended up having to stay home because of some family issues. But when I heard this was coming to coming closer to home, it was just something that was like, wow, it's really happening. Me and my team, we've been training, for that. I'm getting ready for that, and I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm a veteran receiver. I know the game very well. I bring leadership, and also bring effort, and I'm going to give it all I got. But it's going to be something that's going to be very, very good for the city, and I'm just waiting for opportunity to be a part of it for sure.
Thank you once again for your time this morning, sir. We really appreciate it. Let's go to CJ next.
Yeah, I mean, just excited for this upcoming season and all the leagues. I hope they all find success. Looking forward to seeing new storylines and new players making new names for themselves, and excited for the coaching changes and the opportunity for myself to continue my career and be able to go travel some more and see some cool places and play in front of new fans. And I'm excited to be able to keep doing what I love to do. And appreciate you guys having us on. And I think I can speak for Julian and I. It's great that we get a chance to have this platform to express our love for the game, because so many times it gets bashed by people who don't understand what it takes to do this. So we appreciate y'all, and I'll say it every time, fans, just keep supporting us. Come to a game, get a ball, get something. We'll sign it for you. We'll do something, but just come to a game.
Absolutely, great point. TJ, what about you, buddy?
I'll just simply say it's been an awesome experience being part of this show and network for the second half of this year on the show. And it's been an honor to, as you said, it's a sport that sometimes gets, mocked a little bit and people don't want to talk about it. So it's been awesome finding people who love the game as much as I do. And I can't wait for next year.
Absolutely. Had a little bit of connection issues there, so hopefully you got the gist of what TJ was trying to say. Cody, you're up next, buddy. And real quick, just in case he doesn't say it, make sure you check out his recent episode about the Screaming Eagles.
Stole my thunder. No, shameless plug. New video out, mini series that I'm doing in the off season, Gone But Not Forgotten. Salt Lake Screaming Eagles, the first video that are up and about. Kind of a brief history and an overlook on how a team kind of propelled the Indoor Football League into kind of what they are today, and also was a springboard of a different league and everything and anything in between. But to piggyback off of TJ, it's definitely been an honor to be a part of this, to kind of promote myself, but to get all the greediness out of there, to be a part of, a larger community, to be able to talk with you guys, talk with players, coaches, anything and everything in between, to really be able to kind of just put our ideas, thoughts, you know, like-mindedness and then disagreements together and kind of come to a cohesiveness, regardless of whatever the topic is at hand, whatever the league is at hand. So it's been really cool. It's something I didn't really think I would be a part of, even as far back as like 6 months ago. So it's been awesome being a part of this, being friends with all of you guys and everything like that. So it's kind of been a dream come true to be able to put the thoughts out there instead of just speaking them into the ether.
Isn't that the truth? And actually, that's kind of why this whole network was born. So my final thoughts real quick is, first of all, thank you guys all for tuning in, and we really appreciate everybody's support. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the like button, share this with any other indoor football nuts that you might know. It's a niche market, and we're trying to reach everybody. But at the same time, I just want to thank everybody who took the time out to come on this show this season. There's so many people. I don't want to name names because I'll probably forget many of them. Shout out to every one of you guys that have taken the time out. Guys like Julian who have tried to come on, and I dropped the ball on my end, and he's made it work to come back on. It makes it all the more worthwhile to discuss the game because, I'm a fan. I don't really have any insider information into how everything operates on game day or anything like that. So having coaches and players and executives come on and kind of give their 2 cents has been a unique perspective on this show. And then actually coming on and, having guys like Cody come on and TJ come on who are content creators and looking to be a bigger part of this side of it. It's been a pleasure to getting to know you guys all season long and then also having your insights. All of you guys have been great. So just want to shout out everybody who has come on and then shout out all the fans. We've got 70 some people watching right now at 8 o'clock in the morning Mountain Time. A lot of you guys have been here since the beginning of the show as well. So, to me, that's huge. I see the numbers creeping up every single week and it just continues to get better and better. We might not necessarily have a weekly show going forward for a couple weeks or whatever. We'll let some of the news build up, but this is not the last episode of Around the Indoor Football World this year. We will come back and discuss some of the news that's coming up in September and stuff like that. So make sure you're kind of keeping those notifications on and tuning in every time we have an episode, because there's more to come this season. We're just scratching the surface when it comes to all the movement we're going to see this off season. But on that note, really appreciate everybody who tuned in again. Make sure you hit that like button again. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on those notifications, and we'll make sure to get you lots of more great content as we move into NFL season, as we finish up ELF, CFL season. If you're a fan of any football league, we've probably got you covered.